You're listening to Darling Shine, a podcast by Ellidy Pullin and myself, Chloe Fisher.
Darling Shine is your survival kit to the unexpected shit life throws at you.
This episode of Darling Shine is brought to you by NAT V Basic, an Australian-based line who create knickers that are better for our bodies and better for the planet.
My other favourite part about NAT V is that they really do their part for the planet. Their knickers are at least 80% biodegradable. They ship all orders carbon and plastic free, and you can use our code DarlingShine for a huge 30% off. That's amazing.
That's actually amazing because I only own NAT V underwear, and 30% off those, that's a bloody bargain.
That's off the
Stock
chain.
fuck up.
Get around it. Happy Wednesday, darlings. Welcome back. With a New Zealand accent. I don't know what that was. I had such a fun time recording with the guest we're having on today.
Wow, it's a good one. So hold on to your knickers, girls.
Nah, chuck them out. You don't need your knickers for this one. It's off the chain.
It's so good. So today's guest on Darling Shine, we have the beautiful Chantelle Otten. As you know, here at Darling Shine, we are all about using our voice to help and educate others on topics many may be too scared to talk about. So getting Chantel on the podcast seemed like an absolute no-brainer for us. She's a Melbourne-based Psycho-Sexologist who is passionate about empowering people to feel great about their sexual health, self-esteem, communication, and education. Having spent time living, studying, and working in Holland, Chantel grew up with the European mindset that talking about sex, pleasure, and relationships does not have to be shameful or taboo. I honestly love that in Europe, when I'm in Ibiza each year, it's so beautiful to see so many naked bodies on the beach, both women and men, and they have no shame at all about what they look like naked. A beautiful example of loving the skin they're in. Even though I love my body, I for sure you won't catch me naked down the beach though.
I'll get my top off.
Yeah, I don't do that usually there. There's so many people, but anyway, that's what it's all about, I guess. A natural-born communicator, she enjoys creating a setting where her clients feel more relaxed and free to talk about their sexual health in a safe, judgment-free environment. With numerous awards, accolades, and published medical journal articles, Chantel is not only an internationally acclaimed psycho-sexologist, but also a caring and empowering sex educator. With a background in scientific research, sexual medicine, and counselling, she believes that sexuality and self-esteem are an integral part of life, which everyone is entitled to. Good sexual health should always be enjoyable, pain-free, and without prejudice. So without further ado,
let's welcome in Chantelle. She's got a sexy voice, so yeah, hold on to your knickers. Well, firstly, welcome Chantelle. We are so excited to have you on.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's going to be a good chat.
It's going to be so interesting. I can't wait to learn. So to start things off, we'd love to hear about your teen years and a bit of your journey into becoming the internationally acclaimed psycho-sexologist. That word sounds pretty psycho. Can you just explain that to us firstly?
Absolute psycho-sexologist. I'm just a lunatic sexologist. That's it. No, it's like means that I deal with the biggest sexual organ, which is the brain. So psychological sexologist, if that makes sense.
We're so nice.
So you can be like a medico-sexologist, you can be a scientific sexologist, you can be, in so many different domains. But I specialise in psychology.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's amazing. That makes complete sense. Like I was just, of course, it's the brain.
I think I should just cut out the word psycho and just put sexologist there because people get so, it just sounds so funny when it's like psycho. Yeah. Sexologist.
Because Ellidy was like, did you make that part up? Did you just add that in? I'm like, no, that's her official job title.
Because that's better than the sciencey one, because the sciencey one would be more anatomy based, right? Like you're...
No. So I actually used to be a scientific sexologist. It just means that you research the way that people behave in sexual manners or, the way that people, interact in a sexual way. So I used to do scientific research into women and the sexuality of those who had hormonal related migraines. So it's a bit boring for this podcast, but some people get migraines with their hormonal drop just before their period. And if you're whacked out for a week or, you're suffering for a couple of days and this is chronic, that's 1 week of every month that you're also getting impacted by with sexual concerns.
I thought
but sex also can relieve
like you
migraines.
Sex.
Yeah. There's a lot. It's
so
like very
to
complex. But I can explain it to you. I'll tell you, I guess, how I got to doing this job. I guess in my teenage years, what was I? Just a rat bag, basically. I grew up in a Dutch family, quite a traditional one. So I had to be home by like 10 p.m. on like in year 12 and stuff. My parents were like, you had to like very kind of strict. And I think that's because I have an older sister who's intellectually disabled. She's 11 months older than me. And then so I was kind of technically the firstborn, and they were just nervous, I guess. I'd never really like had a child that had gone out on the town, and I had 2 younger brothers as well. And I just used to sneak out. So if I had to come home at 10,
sounds like Ellidy.
I was on I used to live like on the 3rd story of our house, like it was kind of like a big converted attic.
Whoa.
And I used to sneak out the window and just scale down the roof, down the upper roof, down the fence, and then someone would pick me up on their bike and off I go to the party.
I love that.
I can't believe your parents were so strict and then you find yourself doing this job. Like, are they just... Yeah, I mean, please.
I think for a few years my dad used to say that I was just a psychologist for a really long time.
I bet.
Yeah, like my mum told me to be a sexologist. So we'll talk about that later. But definitely it's been a bit of a journey. I guess like year 11, year 12, I had undiagnosed ADHD for all of that time. So I wasn't really studious because I was so distracted. I was very inattentive, but I think naturally I am very able to pick up on things. And I think there's like a natural intelligence there, which obviously worked out really well. And I think in year 12, I was more interested in boys and in sex and in, experimenting than I was in actual, in year 12. So I graduated high school well, and I got into psychology. I went to a very strict Catholic girls' school as well, again, because my parents wanted to kind of keep me in line. But I had the record for the most days off in primary school and high school ever in the history of both schools. I just didn't like it. I wasn't very studious. So, I got into psychology at Australian Catholic University in Melbourne. And, I think, I don't know how other people relate to psychology, but there were a lot of strange people as well doing psychology when I went to uni. And so you kind of like, I was probably a bit odd too, like you're all kind of a little bit different, and I had a very tight group of friends. I really I guess I enjoyed it. And after the second year of uni, I wanted to take a little bit of time off and do what everyone does, do their gap year and go traveling. And I did that. I just kind of went all around Europe with my friends and partied a lot and lost a few brain cells from drinking and all of that kind of thing. Things that I regret now. I think I might have been way smarter if I didn't do all that binge drinking.
No, it shaped you, and you probably met so many amazing people, talked to, so many different individuals and learnt so much. And yeah, it was fun. It was really, really fun. And then I guess finishing psychology, I think I had I had mental health issues the last year of my uni degree. I think a lot of people go through eating disorders maybe in that time because it's so stressful. And I had the same thing, but I overcame it and I finished uni, and that was great. But I thought I'll just do something
a little bit low key. I didn't know that sex therapy, sexology was a career back then. So I went into organizational psychology, which was totally a joke because I'm so unorganized, but I faked it a lot, and I worked in recruitment for like 6 months, and then I went into a smaller company and I built up their business. And it was during that time that my mum sent me a TED Talk by Esther Perel. I'm not sure if either of you have heard of her, but she's a famous psychotherapist. Do yourselves a favor, look her up. Her TED Talks are incredible.
Okay.
And she speaks about infidelity, one of her TED Talks, but I guess the nuances of it, that it's not so black and white, right? You know, there's so many things going on behind why we do things that we do, even if they hurt people. And then also she talks about desire, especially in long-term relationships. And she has a really great book called Mating in Captivity, which is about sex in long-term relationships and how challenging it can be, really. And I thought, I want to talk like that. Like, I don't know who's talking about sex, who's talking about desire, who's talking about relationships like this in Australia. And especially, I guess, at the age that I was at, you know, your friends are going through different experiences, and there was so much drama around like your sexual debuts, or back then it was like losing your virginity, and you know, it was so much drama around it, and around dating and treating people well and treating people, you know, people treating you not well as well. So I think that I just wanted to get more knowledge on it, and be the person to talk to about that. And I also wanted to see if it was part of the healthcare system. I always wanted to work in a hospital back then. I loved the healthcare system, and I just kind of found that it really wasn't integrated at that point. There were a few great medical sexologists who worked at a public hospital in Melbourne that I met, and they were really encouraging. And then a lot of sex therapists that, you know, there was a big age difference between myself and them. And I kind of thought, for people my age, I want them to come to me. So I got into science and medicine through Sydney University. And so you do science, medicine, and you specialize in sexual medicine. And I was able to also work abroad during that time, or study abroad. So I could do that degree during the night. So I moved to Amsterdam because I have a Dutch passport, and I used to do that degree at night and then do my sexology degree during the day. And I did an internship as well, because, you know, I like going full steam ahead. I wanted to get it all done, you know, but I had a great time. I mean, living in Amsterdam is so fun. You know, everyone works.
Amsterdam is amazing. I love it.
It's so good. I'm actually going on Sunday.
Are you?
So
Whoa.
good. I'm jealous.
That's so cool. You're going overseas. I love it. Is Amsterdam a bit of a sex, like are there heaps of sex shows there and stuff?
It's so cool.
Sex positive. It's super sex positive there.
Love that for you.
So there's the red light district, which is, of course, where you can see people who are like quite erotic and see people who are trying to find people who are quite erotic. But there's also like degrees in sexology there. And there's a lot of sexologists who, you know, teach like the best courses in the world there. So I was super lucky to be able to learn from them. And yeah, I just kind of like worked really hard, would get home at like 11 p.m., go out for drinks with my friends, go to sleep at 1 or 2, and then get up at like 6 or 7 and do it all again. And I don't recommend that people do it. It wasn't the healthiest way, but it, you know, it also allowed me to have like fun experiences. And yeah, I guess like I kind of crammed it all in. And that's when I was also doing scientific research, and that's when I started winning awards for female sexual medicine. Back then. So I guess even though I was young, I was 25 then, I really felt like this was my place and I was good at it and it was my calling. And I kind of knew if I had come that far overseas that I could do it and bring it back to Australia. So I guess that was the next challenge. And I moved back to Australia when I was like end of 26 years old. I got married to a friend of mine. Well, we were in love, like it wasn't just a friend, you know, it was an old friend. We fell in love. We got married and we like eloped in Japan. And then I decided to start my business at like the start of 2017. And yeah, I guess back then, like no one knew who a sexologist was. I think everyone thought I was a sex worker, which is fine, but it just wasn't what I was doing for work. So I ended up like dyeing my hair black because I used to have blonde hair. I dyed it black and I used to wear really baggy clothes because I looked 25, like I looked really young. And I had to convince people that I was older. So if you actually look at my website, I look like 39 years old on my website because I'm wearing like, I have like brown hair and it's kind of curled and it's definitely way before my lip fillers. And, you know, I'm wearing all these baggy clothes and I had to act a lot older because people didn't take me seriously at all.
It's crazy because like even myself just speaking to you for the last few minutes, I feel like I want to like talk to you about all my sex things. Like,
and you've got a sexy voice too.
Yeah. And like, I think that I think that as well, just thinking about seeing a sexologist, you'd be like, oh, I'm just not really sure. But like now I want to come and talk to you, but I wanted to know, you obviously speak to people and treat individuals of all genders and sexual orientations, but what are the top 5 things that people actually come to you? Like what is a valid reason to actually come to a sexologist?
Such a great question because I think it is still quite unknown. So I have a really big team. I've got a team of 20 who work for me now, and there's a mix of pelvic floor physios and sexologists.
I need that too. Minnie fucked me right.
We all do, don't worry. I tell them that I need them when I'm there, but I don't do it, not yet. No, so basically I would say the top ones are sexual pain for vulva owners, vagina owners. So when it's stinging, burning-like sensations or pain on the vulva, so the skin between your vaginal opening and your legs is what we call the vulva, and you can get discomfort there. Things like low desire, because, you know, we're all going to experience low desire at points in our lives. But when it's chronic and it's distressing, of course, you know, you need to go see someone and make sure that everything's okay. What else would I say? Difficulties with orgasm, especially for vulva owners, femmes, not knowing how or believing that they don't know how. Maybe they can with masturbation, but they can't with partnered play. And that's really a lot more about education. And then, you know, premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction, couples work. There's so many things to think about. And then things like we deal a lot with fertility in my clinic, and then oncology, so cancers, etc.
Wow. So people are going directly to you and not just going to a GP. Like if it's hurting to have sex and stuff like that, they just go to you. How do they know that?
Well, I think now because of my social media, they know that.
Yep. Okay.
Back in the day, it was because I had like aggressive marketing techniques. I would just hijack every Facebook group and say that that's what I do. Like-minded bitches drinking wine. I don't know if you guys remember that Facebook group. Yeah. I would just used to post on there a lot. But people go to doctors and actually you don't get, you have like a 1-hour lecture on sexual medicine in medical degrees in Australia. So a lot of doctors don't know how to treat sexual concerns. And, you know, I think that's why my career is also really thriving, which is it's hard because many people will go maybe 10, 15, 20 years with painful sex or think that that's normal for them or different difficulties. And then, you know, we can hopefully try and get them to a better place within a couple of months. And they think, wow, like I wish I had known about this a lot earlier. But yeah, we see everyone. Any question that you have is fine.
That is so amazing. Yeah, I'm really obsessed with you and your story and your love life because, I mean, for those that don't know, your partner is the legend Dylan Alcott, Paralympian tennis player who recently just got crowned Australian of the Year the other day, literally. So congratulations to him. And I'm sure he couldn't do it without the strong woman that is you by his side. You two are just amazing. I'm obsessed with you both.
Thanks.
If you're comfortable, we'd love to touch on like your sex life because I know you are really passionate about advocating for, you know, the stigma around people with a disability maybe not being able to fall in love or be sexually active.
Yeah, sure. I can talk about that for sure. I think it's a really great topic. And I think that, you know, one of the reasons I guess maybe Dylan and I are so vocal is because we just want to show people that it is absolutely normal and okay. I think there has always been like a really big stigma that if you have a disability that you're not an erotic being, but that's definitely not true at all, whether it's intellectual or disability, physical or, maybe a hidden disability. Of course, everyone has a sexual foundation within them, an erotic foundation. It just depends on how you can work with it.
Absolutely.
So I guess for Dylan and I, it's very obvious what his disability is because he's in a wheelchair. I was super nervous when we first had a night together because I'd never been with someone with a disability before. And he'd never been with a sexologist before.
Wow, he must have loved it.
He was a bit nervous.
He's like, what the fuck am I in for here?
I love it. Did you two have a few drinks before?
I can't remember. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did. But it wasn't crazy. Like we were very like present. And I think, we were just both as nervous as each other. But like one thing is I was, I'm very able to communicate and ask a lot of questions. So it was like, do I want to do this? How do I do this? What do I do here? Obviously his legs don't work. So you just maneuver in a different way and you just have normal sex, but you've got to do it differently. So, a lot of maybe me on top or different positions that are able to keep him mobile, that kind of thing. But it's not as complex as people think. It's, super pleasurable. And, the man can do great things with his, hands, with all different parts of his body. And I think that that's something that, we get asked a lot about, and I'm never going to go into full details, but I'm just going to say like, it's super possible. It's super fun. And it's the best sex I've ever had. So I think that people just need to be a little bit more open-minded and use toys. You've got I've got lots of toys, but use everything that you want because like sex is about fun and sex is about pleasure. It's not about a prescription model, what we see in movies, what we see in pornography. It doesn't have to be what we're taught in the media. It can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, and I feel like what I've learned from you already is it's a lot about the mind and the brain and how you can tune in and feel with your brain as well, right? Is that correct? Like it's all about where your head's at.
Yeah, it's about engaging with your senses. It's about being creative. Yeah. It's about imagination. And I feel like when we talk later a bit about desire, if you lose your creativity, if you lose your imagination in the bedroom, then you will have difficulties with things like desire as well.
Ad break. A quick word from our sponsor, NAT V. We are just obsessed with this Aussie brand. I love all of the colours. I love the new green that they have and the nudes. You just cannot go wrong.
I love limoncello colour, the little yellow one.
You have to be tanned for that.
But I've also been obsessing over the Chi Chi G at the moment. They're so soft, seamless, and then they are high, so they kind of like hold you in all the right places, and they're a G-string, so I'm all about those. And you, do you like those ones?
Yeah, I don't love full briefs. I only like Gs.
Yeah, no, they're Gs.
So freaking comfortable.
But don't forget, we have 30% off for our listeners, and you can use the code DarlingShine at checkout. Yeah, I actually wanted to go back quickly, and when you started talking about toys and stuff like that, and I really wanted to have a little chat about self-pleasure, and for people that we were only speaking about it at like a girls thing yesterday that we had, and some girl, like it was just really interesting to see the dynamic at the table. Some girls like, yes, I've got lots of toys. Some girls like, oh no, I like literally don't own one toy, or like someone was like, this one does this, and there's just so many levels to it, and I would love you to like speak a little bit about self-pleasure and how it's not like, there's this sort of stigma around that as well.
I think everyone deserves pleasure, and I think you are your best sexual partner, right? Like if you know how to touch yourself, if you know how to please yourself, either with your hands or through rubbing against something or with a toy, then you're able to teach someone else and invite them into that space in a great way. The thing is, we were just never taught that pleasure was for us, especially as femmes. We were really taught a lot about wanking and a lot about, penis owners, and they were allowed to do it whenever, and it was like a great story. But we were never taught that we were allowed to do it. We didn't even know that our what we call the vagina is actually called the vulva. You know, it's the vagina is just the hole where a tampon or a finger or a penis goes. What you're looking at in a mirror or, you know, on your phone or something is your vulva, and it's all the skin that touches, the genital skin that touches your underwear. So we actually weren't taught about anatomy. We weren't taught about the clitoris. The clitoris is, of course, the pleasure point for anyone who has a vulva, and it's got thousands of nerve endings in it designed purely for pleasure. And we should be touching it, you know, we should be using it, utilizing it. We should be using toys on it, trying different lubes with it. And I think that it's come a long way. You know, we have great websites now. Like there's a website called omgyes.com, which teaches anyone with a vulva how to masturbate as well. And it's run by scientists, and they've got real femmes on there masturbating. So they show you how to touch themselves. And it's not weird. It's not like explicit. It's really normalized. And I love that. And then we have great websites like Comfortable in Your Skin, Vulva Gallery, Labia Library, you know, actually showing what vulvas look like and different sizes and different types of labia. I didn't even know until my 20s that some people had innies and some people had outies because I never saw other people's vulvas really. And I think that for us, like self-pleasure is becoming more normalized as we have more sex positive people on social media, even though people like myself and other sex experts are really censored, and anyone who's really talking about pleasure or being naked or females in general or femmes or trans or LGBTQIA+, we're all censored. I think that the message is definitely coming out there. And I think it's also more normalized to have a sex toy kit as well, which, you know, we really didn't talk about back in the day. Favorites? Yep. I think anyone who's got a clitoris needs like a womanizer or like a clitoral suction toy.
That's
you know the one, Ellidy?
Yesterday.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, we were talking about that one yesterday.
I actually haven't got one of those, but one of the girls was like, what is a suction? And I know what a suction thing is, but I don't have one.
Yeah.
I'll get one sent to you, Chloe.
Get one. Paul's away all the time.
I'll get a box coming your way.
Perfect.
Yes. Yeah. So we want to talk about like long distance relationships and trying to keep the spice alive, because we've both been in that, and it is hard when they're gone for so long.
Sometimes I just forget, but then sometimes I'm like, oh, you know. Yeah. I literally sometimes forget that sex is a thing. Like I forget about self-pleasure.
And I know this now, the less you have it, the less you actually want it, the less you desire it. And look, in my case at the moment, I'm fine. I'm liking that because I'm busy. I got mini. I don't want to be with anyone else. And yeah, like I would only.
Not on your radar.
Yeah, it's really hard for me at the moment. But basically, I mean, look, I'm like literally, I'm the epitome of Virgin
Your
Mother.
Your hormones are probably on the
I'm
ground
Virgin
as
Mother
well
Mary right now. I've literally pulled a kid out of thin air without having sex. But there is some science behind that. But no, can you talk about like, long distance and spicing things up, you know, when your partner's not there?
Yeah. Look, I think that it's difficult. I think that it's difficult. I would be absolutely lying to say that it's super easy. I think that you need, especially with your schedules as well, and I know that both of you are working really hard, and obviously with Fish, she's working really hard as well and got different schedules. I think it is about prioritizing time, and you need to build up to it. Like you need to actually put it in your diary and go, okay, I might not feel like it, but maybe I can get myself in the mood. Maybe that means, you know, doing things like having a hot shower, putting on your lotions and potions. Maybe it's a fake tan. Think about the things. If you're driving, if you feel like you're driving like a desire car, there will be things that put the accelerator on, and maybe that's different lingerie, maybe that's silk pajamas, maybe it's, you know, your hair done, whatever. And there will be things that put the brakes on. Maybe that's a screaming baby. Maybe that's, you know, fertility treatment. Maybe that's working too hard. All of these things, you know, and I think that it is like a hard thing to navigate, but if you can, try and take a few things that whatever you can, try and take them off the break, right? So maybe that's making some more time for yourself. Maybe that's watching pornography or listening to erotic audio. And actually, for both of you, I'll send you a link later because there is a great orgasmic meditation which can get you in the mood.
Is it your voice?
It's not mine. Maybe I'll make one.
You need to make one.
I've got a podcast called Sexy Stories. I actually read out people's erotic literature.
Stop.
So, yeah, there's plenty of people that are definitely enjoying the sound of my voice out there. But this orgasmic, yes, I will. There's an orgasmic meditation by a guy called Madison James. He's like an English guy, and he sounds like so sexy in your ear, but he guides you through how to touch yourself. It goes for an hour. Wow. And he practices edging, which is where you bring up your arousal and you play with it. So you bring it up and down over the course of an hour. And then he gives you permission and you can take yourself over the edge.
I know what I'm doing tonight.
100%. It changed my life as a sex expert. Cool. I didn't even realize that kind of pleasure existed. It was incredible.
I'll let you know how I go.
But listening to something like that would be cool before you had one of your experiences, because then you have that practice, right? Yeah. You know what you're desiring. You have a journey in mind because you've already experienced it previously and recently. But there are also great sex toys that, for example, and I'll send you some, Chloe. They're like, what are they? They're Bluetooth controlled. So you're holding it on yourself. And Fisher, he can play it to one of his songs. The beat will go up and down. So you'll be done quickly.
Yeah, it's going to be very fast.
That is so cool. He
can control the way it goes up and down.
Definitely don't put it to losing it.
You don't want to start off with that for sure. Maybe you can
build up to lose it.
He would play tricks on you. It'd be so funny.
I actually think that when we were younger, I went to Sexpo in Sydney years ago, with our ex-boyfriends, I think, and we bought all those sort of things. But we were so immature and dumb and young back then, and we joke about it, and it was like such a funny thing. Like it was never like
and we were just like, ew, what the hell is that? Oh my god, let's buy one. Let's buy it as a joke. Like we had no idea. We were just so awkward and weird.
And the quality was so bad.
They were like horrendous. Yeah. Far out. We actually used to, when we were younger, we were actually laughing about this before. Every time one of our girlfriends would turn like 18th, it was like a thing. We'd go to like the dirty sex shop in Manly and get like the cheapest dildo we could find. Yeah. And everyone would get a dildo for their 18th birthday. I don't know. Yeah.
And like a really weird, sexy, like lacy G-string or something. And we'd all be hilarious. Like, oh my God. But now I reckon girls that are like 16, 17, 18 now, that'd just be a normal fucking present. Like that was like a joke for us.
Yeah.
They have so many sex toys these days. Like, honestly, it's crazy. But good on them. I mean,
go for it.
What was the first sex toy that both of you got? Do you remember?
My one was actually the one that vibrates and it's like a zzz, and then someone else does have the remote.
I actually can't remember what mine
like
was.
A little palm one, a tiny one.
Yeah.
Like a clitoral one. Yeah.
I haven't owned many like dildos. Mine have been more the vibrating little things.
Same. I haven't ever had a dildo.
But
like a bullet.
I actually went through this really crazy crystal like phase in my life, and like my house is full of crystals, and I was like, Paul went away. I was like, I bought this crystal dildo, and when Ellidy came over once and Paul had come home, he was like, Ellidy, look what she just bought. What a freak. And I was like, well, it actually is shit because it is like a rock, and there was absolutely zero pleasure from it. I was like, this is like grinding my bones. I felt like my bones were going to break in my vagina.
Like shoving glass up there.
Yeah,
like,
it was. It really was.
They're actually really porous as well, so that means that they have bacteria.
Yuck, mine's in the bin, man.
Oh, that's so shit.
That's cruel. Yeah.
In the trash.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Crystal dildo in the trash.
Yeah, you need that silicone shit. Is that right? The rubbery ones.
The good qual, yeah, absolutely. Silicone's the way to go.
Yeah, and the suction-y for sure. So actually that's 100%. This is a massive question. I reckon so many people get this and go through this, is having a low libido. So if you've got any hot tips or tricks on how to overcome that.
Yeah, so I think first of all we have to normalize the fact that we are going to have high sex drive sometimes and we're going to have low sex drive sometimes, and that's super normal, especially when you get into like a new relationship and you know you're in love and everything's amazing and you're going to get married. Like you have all those crazy like the honeymoon phase, right? It's very passionate, and you do crazy things like you'll travel the world for that person, you'll give up work, whatever. That's the time where you're going to be having very hormone-driven sex, and it's going to be, a lot of fun, hopefully. And then that will kind of wear off after like 12 to 18 months or so. And of course, there's a lot of people out there that are single and having great, sexual lives as they're single as well. I think that if you go through that dip and you go through into a low desire stage, you have to really think about a few different factors. I think biologically you need to think about, well, am I healthy right now? Like, do I feel good? Do I feel strong? Especially as someone who gets their period, is my iron high enough? Have I got all the right nutrients? Make sure you get a blood test and see that you're kind of up to scratch. You can go see a naturopath, or acupuncture is also really amazing for low libido as well. And then think about, okay, well, psychologically, how am I doing? Like, if my anxiety is really high, like stress and sex don't really mix, or if I'm a little bit depressed at the moment, I'm not really going to feel like it that much. And how's my relationship going? If you are in a relationship, how are you feeling interpersonally? Are you getting along really well? Do you tease each other still? Do you have fun? Or is there bickering? Are you arguing quite a bit? Because it's kind of a little bit hard when you're not having a great time with each other to desire each other. And then I think you've got to think about your sociocultural background. How did you learn about sex? Do you feel like sex is okay for you? Do you think self-pleasure is okay for you? Are there any kind of taboo narratives or shameful narratives that you maybe need to work on with someone? So all of these things interrelate with each other. And I think it's important to really take some time to think about, are you working at your best capacity here, or are you just forcing yourself to try and get desire? Because I think the more that you force yourself, the harder it's going to be. I think you need to kind of take a few steps, like I said, about driving your desire car before, and see, well, what can I put on the accelerator right now? Maybe it's exercising so I feel really good about myself. Maybe it's eating lighter, like things that don't make me feel tired at nighttime. Maybe it's about planning sex at a different time of the day so that I've got the juice to do it. Sometimes 10 p.m., 11 p.m., 1 a.m. in the morning is not the best time to have sex because you want to go to sleep, right? So Sunday morning sex, or like early morning or lunchtime sex, is also great. And then I think, if you're in a relationship with someone, think about your sex life and go, is it that I don't desire sex in general, or is that I don't desire the sex that I'm having right now with this person? Because I think for us, especially as femmes, we can get bored with the type of sex that we're having, right? We have a sexual menu and we might enjoy it. The first time that we have it, it's, maybe it's oral sex, and then you do penetration, and then you finish with a vibrator, and you go, wow, that's my menu and it works really well. And then you go, I'll try it again next time because I've got the formula, and cool. You go do it again, the same menu. And then you try it again after that, and you're like, okay, it's good, but it's very predictable right now. So I'm starting to get a little bit bored. But people start to slot into these menus. And it's kind of like going out and us having the same meal every single time we caught up as girlfriends. We go get spaghetti bolognese and like garlic bread and a margie or something. Yeah. Cool for the first two, maybe 3 times. Afterwards, we don't want to keep doing that anymore, because you lose that excitement. You lose the journey, the story behind it, the desire for it. Yeah. So I think switching it up and having variety is super important. And that means sometimes expanding what your comfort zone may be. Maybe that's saying, I will try something a little bit different, or I'm going to try a different lubricant, or you're going to, maybe we're only having entree today, so you're just going to go down on me for like an hour and that's going to be sex. Oy. Sex doesn't have to mean penetration. Yeah. It doesn't have to mean orgasm as well, because if it does mean that, we're, missing out on a whole part of the LGBTQIA plus community, and people with different abilities, and people with things like erectile dysfunction and painful sex. We make sex what we want it, but we also have to, work on it. We have to prioritize it. It doesn't just happen spontaneously. It happens with a response to something, like watching porn, like listening to erotica, like, preparing for it and having a hot bath and touching yourself before you have partnered sex. So it sounds a bit more complex, but it is about making an effort with it, and hopefully that will help a little bit more. Otherwise, seeing a sexologist, that's what we're here for, to be detectives into your sex life and help you reach a place where you feel a little bit more satisfied with it.
Wow.
So interesting. Wow. I want to just speak to you for hours about, I've got so many questions that are just coming into my head, but that can be for another time. But I know that we've kind of like brushed on quite a few times about painful sex, and I know that it's quite an unspoken topic, and I know that a lot of women would feel a little bit scared or embarrassed to go and see a doctor about that. And I've even had that sometimes. Every now and then I feel like it's like hitting something, and I'm like, is it because your cervix is in different positions, because I say to Paul, I'm like, that wasn't really, he's like, why? Like, well, it shouldn't hurt. Like, and I'm like, well, it doesn't hurt really ever, but sometimes, and I wonder, is it because it's at different times of the month that it's like, I'm sure it's my cervix, like when it, how your cervix goes up and down depending on the different, like the time in your cycle. Can you talk a little bit more about painful sex and what, and how and why that actually happens?
Sure. So I think what you're describing is like a deeper pain. It's up kind of inside you, more like where you would get menstrual cramps right there. Yeah. So that's called, we call any pain down there dyspareunia. And what you've got is sometimes is called deep dyspareunia. So it feels like it's hitting the back wall. You're like, my vagina stops there. Damn.
Damn it. Deeper.
Stretch a little bit more. But that's super normal. And it might be your cervix, or it might be your pelvic floor. So it might mean, so the pelvic floor is all the muscles kind of in that area where you're getting your cramps, and then surrounding your vagina as well. And sometimes that can get a little bit tense, and it depends on what's going on in your life, depends on how you're feeling, depends if you're stressed, if you're not stressed. Sometimes some pelvic floor physio can relax those muscles a little bit more and teach you how to train them to relax a little bit more. Or it could just be time of the month, and then you don't do those positions that are going to cause pain. Or you can get what we call an O-nut, which is like a little donut, which would fit around the end of the penis, so it doesn't go all the way in. So it's not going to hit the back wall, but you're still going to have penetration and have fun.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'll send you some links after this.
I thought you were going to be like, I'll send you a few of those as well.
And you're getting a full goodie box.
Oh my God, I love it.
That's super interesting.
Yeah. But there's also different types of pain. Like there's, and I'm sorry for talking over you, but I think it's, we also need to talk about pain with penetration as well. So that's when something's going inside you, whether it be a finger, a tampon, a vibrator, or a penis, and it feels like burning, stinging, like a tightness, maybe like razor blade-like sensations for some people. This is called vaginismus. It sounds like Christmas of the vagina. But it's not.
Not that fun.
It's not. It's like Halloween.
Halloween of the vagina.
It's a Halloween of the vagina.
Sometimes.
Lollies.
So that's, again, your pelvic floor muscles being really tight. Some people will have that from the first time that they try to put in a tampon or have sex. Or some people will get it later in life, maybe after having, months or years of having pleasurable sex. Something will happen. Maybe it's childbirth. Maybe it's an experience. Maybe you've tried it once and it was painful, and then you anticipate that it's going to be painful next time. It's really the way that the brain is anticipating pain, and you're tightening up your pelvic floor. Kind of like if I saw you both and I was like, oh, hey, Chloe, and I just threw a pen at your eye would blink because it was anticipating pain. Your vagina's doing the same because it's anticipating, it's blinking.
Fully.
Because it's anticipating pain. And then there's pain on the vulva, which is, again, the skin that's touching your underwear. And that can happen maybe all the time. There's some burning there. It is, again, related to pelvic floor, but a few other things, maybe some skin
pelvic
conditions.
Floor, sorry to speak over you. How is that related to your pelvic floor when it's not near your pelvic floor?
Well, actually, the pelvic floor is connected to the nerve endings that go out to the skin as well. So if your pelvic floor is really tense, it might be stimulating those nerve endings in a challenging way, and you might need things like numbing cream down there, or you might need to learn how to relax it or desensitize it with your fingers, or with, a dilator, for example, which is kind of like a dildo, but it's used for health conditions. And I think that it is quite complex. So if it's not fully understood, that's because these conditions are not also fully understood as well. There's a lot more research that needs to go into them. But it's something that we specialize in my clinic, and I would say that we're very successful at it. It's a journey, but we have a team of physios and sexologists, so we can all work together. And it's a little bit different. A lot of doctors will, especially really old school doctors, will be like, you're fine, just have a glass of wine before you have sex and relax and you'll be all right. It doesn't work like that. It actually does need some TLC, some care and attention. And I think if you are suffering with pain, you deserve to have people supporting you and helping you along that journey.
And also, I remember when we were younger, that was like a big thing when it's quite frequent for people to get UTIs after sex. And like I used to get them when I was younger, but I never really related them to sex. But why are women getting UTIs after sex? Is it because my mum used to always say dirty dick? And
yeah, because you got to shower after and you got to pee. You got to pee after, right? And you got to shower after.
After every time you have sex.
Well, at least pee. Yeah,
you can pee, but it's also like if you think about it, UTIs actually are involved with like the kidneys and the urinary tract mainly. So maybe it's dirty dick. Maybe your partner needs to put some of the Candida cream on their penis so that you're making sure that they don't have any of the bacteria that's going to impact you.
Yeah.
Peeing after sex is important. You don't have to shower after sex. It's not really like that. But if you think about it, our vaginal opening is very close to our anal opening as well. So it's easier for the bacteria, and especially in pregnancy, because you're, dropping down quite a bit as well. It's easy for the bacteria to come up towards the vaginal area. Some people are just really prone to UTIs, so taking an antibiotic straight after sex will help you not get a UTI. And then high dose vitamin C is really important, so definitely like 1,000 milligrams a day. Taking cranberry tablets is great. And then there's a few over-the-counter things. You can, of course, get your antibiotics over the counter, but you can get Demonose, which is one tablet that might work. And then there's another one, and it's totally slipped my mind, even though I've got bottles of it around the clinic. Anyway, talk to your pharmacist about it, because there are different ways to help stop the bacteria from sticking to your urinary tract and helping you flush it out. So a lot of water and hopefully acidic water from your vitamin C, flushing out that bacteria so you don't get as prone to UTIs. But it is a challenging one. I don't have the answer for everyone.
I haven't had one for ages,
it's worth persisting with.
So hectic.
I've had one before, yeah, but it's definitely a thing that some people are prone to, isn't it? You just, But
talk to your doctor, Chloe. You can get one for every single time.
I don't actually get them anymore. I used to get them when I was in high school, like much younger. Not heaps, but I just remember they were like life or death. I was like, I think I'm going to die. This is so painful.
I've heard it's really painful.
Man.
I was talking to Ellie last night, who I know you know from Comfortable in My Skin. She's amazing. And she was like, she gets so many questions. So just before we wrap up, I wanted to ask just one more about advice for people with herpes or HIV or other STDs in sexual relationships and that, because she says she's just inundated with people with, STDs who want to talk about their body and sex.
Yeah, I think that, Ellie's doing an excellent job. I actually met Ellie in Bali when you were getting married. I was there with Dylan, and your hens party was going on. Days before your wedding. And we spoke about it then, and I didn't realize, I guess, how many messages or how much of her work was taken up with this topic. I think that we just need to normalize the fact that STIs, it's kind of like getting coronavirus. It's an infection. You don't know whether you're going to get it or not. The only way to prevent it is by using condoms. And even then, that's around 99%. But using dental dams as well, which we don't really sell in Australia, but if you cut open a condom, you can use that latex over your vulva. But you know what? There are going to be times where you cannot use condoms or latex over your vulva when you're having sex. Some people get an STI from the first time that they have sex with anyone. So we cannot label anyone with an STI or herpes or HIV or as wrong or problematic or dirty. And I think those are the messages that we grew up learning, that it's not okay, but it's absolutely okay to have an STI. It's super normal, super common. And I think we just need to highlight the fact that it's not the end of the world. You're still going to have a fun, pleasurable sex life. You're still going to be able to find someone who wants to have sex with you, who wants to love you, be in long-term relationships with you. And I know so many people personally and professionally who have STIs that are ongoing and who have herpes, and their lives are great. I think that we just need to be a little bit more outspoken with the topic. Yeah. And there are some great resources out there as well, which I can send through. But talking about it on podcasts like this will normalize it a lot more. Like with sex in general, the more we talk about it, the more we're going to feel comfortable talking about it.
And all about communicating with your partner, I guess, like really open communication about what you've got.
And just saying this is, like with herpes, for example, you might be going through a really controlled period. You might not be having an outbreak. So you'll have times where it's suppressed and you take medication a lot of the time, and it's not dangerous. You're not going to pass it on to your sexual partner. And there will be times, especially if you're run down, where maybe you will get a flare up, and that's when it is more susceptible to be passed from one sexual partner to another. But that's when maybe you don't have penetrative sex, or maybe you're not rubbing genitals on each other or not going near the genitals that have herpes, having outer course, keeping your undies on, still having fun, but just avoiding, passing it from one to the other. Kind of like wearing masks.
So interesting. Wow. I never really thought of that. Outer course.
We love face that. Mask. You've also written a book. Congratulations, by the way, The Sex Ed You Never Had. That's so cool.
Yeah, both authors.
Thank you.
I don't know if I'm an author, but you definitely are.
You're an author. You've got a book out right now. It's so exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's actually really weird to be like, I'm an author. I don't know.
You are.
But yeah, I've got to get your book.
Best-selling author by now as well.
Oh, no, you'd be a best-selling author.
Oh, I actually can't wait to read your book. I feel like, and a lot of our listeners as well, you guys definitely need to get your hands on. Do you want to actually quickly explain it before we go, where they can buy your book, where people can actually find you, what's your clinic called, your social media, and give us a little bit of a rundown.
Thank you. So The Sex Ed You Never Had, I think you can buy it kind of anywhere. I don't really know. I think it's like online or in bookstores. Yeah. And it is sex ed for adults. It's all the things that we didn't get to learn in school, especially if you were like me and you went to a strict school that didn't have any sex education at all. I think that it's all the things that we wish we had known. And I'm really proud of it because it's not gender specific, it's really open. We talk a lot about, things like intersex, things like hormones, things about menstrual cycle, and then how to have good sex and how to date. So I'm really proud of it. I think it's a fun book. And then in terms of the work that I do, you can always just Google my name and you can find my clinic on there, or it's the Australian Institute of Sexology and Sexual Medicine. And my Instagram is Chantelle_Otten_Sexologist.
Oh. You are such a legend. Thank you so much for just chatting to us.
I think that was almost one of my favourite chats we've had.
Me too.
That was so interesting. We might have to have a part 2 one day because there's so many more questions, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are going to have a million more questions to ask you. But
we didn't even dive too deep.
No, but we've run out of time for now. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. We're so excited. I can't wipe the smile off my face for some reason.
I just want to ask so many more questions. Stop.
I feel like I talked your ears off.
No,
so
you
are
amazing.
verbal.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chantel.